to me. I know absolutely nothing. My name's Alistair. I'm an indie developer, and my talk to you is going to be about, it's about great big touch screens and what they're going to do for video games, and also why it's great to get large numbers of people around them. So, just like Jane said, the whole many screens, one player, or many players, one screen shindig. Anyway, so this is a picture you've all already seen. So it's actually kind of redundant because I'm standing here, so you don't need to know what I look like from the slides. I work as a one-man studio, so I do all my own coding, all my own design, all my own artwork, and then I also run the whole business marketing and kind of PR side of the business. So I've been working as a one-man team for about the past 3.5 years, mostly on iPhone and iPad games. During this period, I've done various guest articles for places like pocketgame.biz, gamesindustry.biz, gamesbrief.biz, some of them .com.co.uk actually. I've spoken at GDC Europe and Develop Conference, among other places, and was one of the nominees for Develop's 30 Under 30 award a few years ago. The games I've released so far, so up at the top there, that's Greedy Bankers. That was my first commercial release, and the idea is it's a very simple to learn puzzle game with kind of complex strategies that emerge out of it. So you've got these gems on the screen, you're trying to group them together into squares and rectangles of the same colour. The bigger they get, the more they're worth. You tap them to cash them in, and you're kind of racing against the clock to meet the banker's demands. From that game, I ended up developing Greedy Bankers versus the World, which potentially took the same formula and said, well, how can I expand on this specifically for tablets? And one of the key things that sprung to mind was multiplayer. But the multiplayer had quite a cool feature in it, which actually emerged at first by accident, and then I realised, oh no, this is really cool, I'll incentivize this. You've got one player on the left-hand side of the screen, the other player on the right-hand side of the screen. But if you're on the left, you can reach over to the right and steal your opponent's gems. And then to incentivize that, everything you steal doubles in value. So it actually pays to be greedy, which is kind of in keeping with the name of the game. Now, that game kind of sparked off this thing that I've been kind of following ever since, which is shared tablet multiplayer. The idea that you get multiple players on one touch screen and make a game where they're encouraged to cheat, they're encouraged to get in each other's way, they're encouraged to grab each other's arms, and it's weird, I'm getting the, oh well, that doesn't matter much, does it? I was getting the internet sign-on thing in there, so I was wondering if it was coming up there, but it wasn't, but anyway, that's why I got confused. So, last year, I brought out a game called Slamjet Stadium on iPad, and that's been my most successful game to date. It was new and noteworthy in the App Store in a total of 61 countries, which was a fantastic achievement, which I'm still not quite sure how it happened, but I'm very, very happy with it. The game, essentially, it's another multiplayer game for the tablet where you share the space and you're encouraged to get in each other's way. But what it adds in is, it's kind of physics-based, futuristic football on hover bikes with kind of traps and power-ups that allow you to mess each other up. You can actually, even if you're on the red team, you can still grab the blue team's characters and use them as if they were your own. And what I really wanted to do with the game was take this whole physical play and put it in an environment where both players could use the whole of the screen. They weren't limited to their own sides. And the other thing I wanted to do was take away the kind of barrier created by puzzle mechanics. So you didn't have to understand how the puzzle game worked before you could start cheating. If you know how to fling characters around the board, then you know how to cheat at flinging characters around the board. So the whole kind of physical play on a tablet, it all really revolves around this physical contact. So if people have excuses to grab each other's arms or reasons why they would want to physically push each other, very quickly they will do that. You'll be surprised at how little it takes. And that's actually quite a special experience because it's a bonding experience between friends. If you're friends with someone, then you won't feel that bad about actually, pushing them out of the way or pushing their hands off the iPad. And it's a sort of show of how close you are as friends. And if you are strangers and if you do start bashing hands, then I think there is a psychological kind of connection that you form over that, which is very positive. These games also allow you to bring your personality into the field, and that's why cheating in these games has been such a big deal. Because if you've got a game where it's okay to cheat and the game actually actively encourages you to cheat, then that means that maybe if you're quite a shy person, then you've got a safe space where you can be Machiavellian, where you can be sneaky, where you can be mean. And it's okay, it doesn't make you not nice in real life because it's all part of the game. It also gives you an opportunity to make each other laugh, and that's almost as big a part of the, well, actually it's a bigger part of the game than who scores the most points at the end of the time. So the kind of rules of thumb I came up with for all of this as I've been developing them, the first one was never ever split the screen into your side and my side. Both players need to be able to interact with the whole screen. And the reason is you've got a nice big canvas here, a nice big interactive space. Why would you want to limit players' opportunity to use that? Why would you want to make them feel caged up? But similarly, when you have a screen which both players have an equal opportunity to kind of reach over, then they're going to collide. They're going to make physical contact. They're going to start pushing. And all of that stuff about cheating and personalities and physical contact helping us bond, that's when that starts to happen. Other kind of tricks I found out were, it works really well if you move the focus of the play around. One of the issues with Greedy Bankers compared to Slamjet Stadium was that the focal point was always the middle of the screen. That middle line where something goes from your side to my side and the value of a gem will double is the kind of most valuable part of the game space. So both players will compete over that, and some games can end up just being an arm wrestle until one player gives up. With Slamjet Stadium, the ball is the focal point, and that bounces all over the screen during play. And you can't even interact with the ball directly. You have to fling a character at the ball. So no matter where your opponent's hands are on the tablet, there's always another character that you can use to mess up their line with the ball by throwing it into it. Another thing is you can actually engineer these games around creating comedy moments. So one thing I do a lot of in Slamjet Stadium is I use the loading screens to suggest ways that you can cheat, and suggest ways that you can mess each other up. And it works really well because people go into it very quickly with the right attitude. So this is where I get onto the big screens, and some of you will have had a chance already to have a go on this thing, which I had my game running on at lunchtime. So this is a 23-inch monitor, which I've been, it's a touchscreen monitor, which just runs off of a tablet running Windows 8, connects up by USB. And this is just one of many large-scale touchscreen sort of devices that are out on the market now. We've also got all-in-one, so that's up in the top right-hand corner is a Lenovo Idea Center Horizon, I think. It's 27 inches in size, and it can be collapsed down like a giant tablet, so you can use it kind of upstanding like a normal monitor when you're doing your work, and then collapse it down, take it into a living room, and kind of play games with friends and family. There's also large-scale Android tablets starting to enter the market now. And this is a real kind of big opportunity that's been created in the market because there are OSs that support this kind of technology now. So we've got a desktop OS in the form of Windows 8, which has touchscreen support. We've got Android, which is seems to be adaptable to absolutely everything you want to throw at it. So, alongside the fact that touchscreen technology is getting cheaper and cheaper to add to a screen, these kind of devices are only going to get more and more popular. So, that's what brings me on to Tap Happy Sabotage, which is a game I was demoing at lunchtime. Because I found out that you could now get these large-scale touchscreens and sort of all-in-one touchscreen devices. And my first thought was, wouldn't that be great for sort of shared physical play? Because, you know, I've had two-player games. I've been building two-player games all this time. But you could fit tons of people around one of these things. So Tap Happy Sabotage, the first thing I'll say about it is it supports up to 52 players on one screen. The number 52 is, I mean, it really should be indefinitely many, but I chose 52 because it's got a nice ring to it. But everyone is given a kind of playing card that they're looking for. If they tap that card, they get a point. They've also got a playing card called their Sabotage card, which, if they tap it, they'll lose all their points. So the idea is you're looking for your target card, and everyone else is looking for your Sabotage card, and you're looking for opportunities to mess each other up. Each round adds in a new kind of variation and a new twist, or a new way that the cards move around the board. And that's all there to get people moving around in different ways, give people new opportunities to cheat, new excuses to wrestle each other's arms away from the screen. This isn't the only thing that's possible on these kind of devices. So for me, one of the biggest benefits of the large-scale touchscreen is how shareable it is. I don't know how many people you can literally fit around that device. It's probably not as many as 52, but it's certainly more than 2. And that makes for a very special experience if you can have a big group of people. The most I've played with so far is 10, and it's really cool. It just gets so hectic. You know, that having 20 arms all joining in on this one screen is something you couldn't do with any other technology. But you also have an opportunity to do these big kind of gestural movements. So Fruit Ninja I put up there because Fruit Ninja is out on Windows 8, so I've been able to play it on these touchscreen devices, and it works brilliantly. Because all those, you know, the swipes that you do to chop up the fruit, they feel big, they feel rich, they feel physical, and you get very kind of, I don't know, pumped up about it, more so than you do when you're sort of flicking at them on your phone. You can also do these kind of intricate movements. So, Where's My Water is a game which I think shows what could be done, but I really think there's more that we can do to explore this. Because once you've got this great big canvas, which you can put your game world on, all the small little details that you could paint in with your fingers have much more power to them. Actions that would be fiddly on a phone now become sort of small, minute detail on a big canvas. Another really exciting benefit of having a touchscreen monitor is that you have all your fingers free. And this is something I haven't seen anyone use to anything significantly cool yet, but I'm kind of waiting for it, and if no one else does it, I've just got to go and make it. But yeah, you know, when you're using a tablet, you tend to have one hand holding it and the other hand using it. Whereas when you've got a monitor on a desktop, you've got both your arms free, so you could do all kinds of crazy stuff where you have to move both your arms all around the place and do like crazy piano movements and stuff. It would be incredible for like a rhythm action game or something. So that beginnings of the game idea there, that's a freebie for any of you who want to make it, because I really want to see that game because it hasn't been made yet. So, the idea of Tap Happy Sabotage, as well as being able to have a large number of people playing at once, was to get people using the physical space of the screen in as many ways as possible. So the basic rules are that you have to find your card, and if anyone finds your sabotage card and taps it, you lose all your points. Nice and simple. But every round, there's a new variation, a new twist, something new to keep you on your toes. So one of them is hold 3 of your card at the same time. And so everyone's reaching on and trying to hold down as many kind of copies of their card as they can. When they reach number 3, then they win a point. And what you get is the game becomes this kind of big thing. It's like digital Twister, where everyone's arms are getting in each way of everyone else's arms, and you're kind of stretching all over the place to see, I've got one here, I've got another card here, and my other card's over there, so I'm going to have to get it with my nose, or something like that, which has actually happened. There was my brother at one point with his nose once, which was quite funny. There's another one where that enemy in the top right corner starts bouncing around the screen, and you need to drag the cards away from its path. And one of the great things about that is, as you're all dragging and moving around the screen without lifting your fingers off, is you all start to get tangled up like a kind of big, like, octopus. And that's just a really cool use of the space. There's another one where all the cards will appear in a corner, so that everyone has to reach over there and then reach over there. So it's all about that kind of physical space and making the most of that as a kind of as an arena. When it comes to designing for this many players, one of the key things I had to, I guess one of the key strategies I used was making every interaction as simple as possible. So, the basic actions are tap, hold, drag. Some way you have to tap rapidly, but nothing really more complex than that. Nothing where you have to interact and then think about what happens afterwards. Because if you add in a layer where you have to think about what happens after you do your action, that's going to get lost on people who haven't quite sort of understood it. And that means if you've got 10 people and say, 5 of them haven't quite worked out that kind of the mechanical system that goes on behind it, then they're going to be lost, they're going to feel like there's no point in playing. So, keep it simple, keep it based on challenges that people can understand without having to sort of learn how to operate within the system. So it's not like a strategy game where you're trying to work out an optimal strategy, or a Mario game where you're trying to work out the optimal timing for jumping over stuff. They're all based on very simple human skills, such as observation, finding your card in a crowd, or ability to weave in and out of each other's arms and find the place you're trying to get to. Other interesting things that come up, there's all kinds of little details that come up when you're trying to support a large number of people. This one was quite fun in the picture here. In order to make sure that everyone could play the game well, even if they're all surrounding it from different angles, every bit of text in the game is repeated upside down on the other screen. And that's so that no player ever feels like they're looking at it upside down. Every player needs to feel like they're on the right side of the screen. And people playing it today at lunchtime, I don't know if any of them noticed, but most players were actually playing upside down. And that's part of it. You want everyone to feel like they are sort of equally in the game. So we've got all kinds of fun emergent playing. That's actually my mum and dad playing there. Seriously, my mum's really competitive. I never really knew that about her until we started playing this game, and also University Challenge. But I mean, another strategy that I use in the game that's kind of grown from Greedy Bankers and Slamjet Stadium is the idea to always look for opportunities that players can use to mess each other up. And if you can see an opportunity to do that, don't try and stop them from doing it. Every round in Tap Happy Sabotage is designed with the knowledge that there is at least one way you can win by playing dirty. Like, you can cheat. Like, you could grab someone else's card and sling it into a path of the enemy or something like that. There's always a way. I don't necessarily tell you what that is. Depends what part of my pitch I'm in when I do that. So, moving beyond my own games, these big touch screens, what other considerations do you have to take in if you are thinking about developing games to make the most of this kind of hardware? The first one is, it's all down to ergonomics. You have to appreciate that people are going to be using these devices in different ways. So, they might be all surrounding them in a big circle. They might have them standing upright on their desk, especially if it's a single-player game and they've not got it all set up for like a party or a family gathering or something. Now, when you've got a screen set up on your desk, what you're not going to be doing is the thing that you do with your tablet without even thinking about it, which is move it into a position that feels most comfortable for you. When you've got a monitor, you'll move yourself into a position that feels most comfortable for using it, which might not necessarily be comfortable for long periods of time. Especially if you've got a game when you're doing a lot of this. So if it's up in front of you and you've got these big long actions, your arms are going to be up in the air, sticking out in front of you in an uncomfortable position for a long period of time. This is something that Fruit Ninja deals with really, really well. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it works really well, and that's just fantastic. With Fruit Ninja, you do swipe, 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 rest. Swipe, swipe, rest. Swipe, swipe, swipe. I mean, you get where this is going. The idea is that there's regular breaks every so often for you to put your arms down. Games which have long kind of drawing-like actions, which might work fine on a tablet where you've got it down sort of in your hand like that, and it's a comfortable position, may not be comfortable if you're doing it all like that. Going on from there, you also have to think about the marketplace and how you're planning to sell and monetize these games. Because after all, we all need to eat. And I think there is a reality that you have to accept with these kind of games right now. This technology is niche at the moment. Not everyone has a touchscreen monitor. Some people have touchscreen laptops now. Some people have like tablety things with Windows 8 on them. That's kind of getting bigger. But it is quite a niche, and there is nowhere that you can go and buy games for, specifically for big screens. And the idea of what is a big screen is, 15 inches, is that big? Is it 13 inches big? Well, 13 inches is big, and 10 inches must be big as well, and that's the size of an iPad. Like, you have to, anything that works on a big screen in any marketplace you put it into is also going to have to work on a smaller screen. And if you're putting it onto a Windows App Store, it's also going to need to support keyboard. So, Tap Happy Sabotage, that picture there is the sort of currently in development keyboard mode. And these are difficult realities to deal with. You have to be a bit creative around it. And whether or not there is, big money to be made here over and above, creating things, specifically for tablets or phones. And, I wouldn't say, there's a massive market out there right now. But this is all going to change over the next couple of years, as this technology gets more and more affordable and manufacturers start putting touch technology into monitors just because they can, we are going to see this as something that's more and more common, and I expect that we will start to get kind of dedicated, certainly, dedicated kind of recommendations and things like that, even if we don't get dedicated marketplaces. But, I don't know how long away that would be. I don't know if it would happen or wouldn't. But what I do know is that right now, if you're making a game for a big touchscreen, you're marking yourself out as an innovator in that space, because there aren't a lot of developers doing it right now. So that means that if these things really take off, which they will, if these big screens really take off, and they will, and people start looking at games that make the most of this cool new hardware that they have, if you're out there first, if you've got something that makes use of it now, in 2 years' time you're going to be one of the people they turn to when they're looking for that stuff. And it also means that you can show for yourself and your studio that you are doing something creative and something that's kind of out there and sort of planting your flag as an original team. Well, there are big opportunities beyond just going through the sort of standard marketplaces. And that's you taking our games into public spaces. These big touchscreen games work really well in public spaces because they are big, they are physical, and physical games are very easy to spectate because it's easy for people to watch them and understand what's going on. They don't have to, they only need the vaguest understanding of the rules to be able to follow them. And that means they can draw a crowd. You can show you can show people something weird and original that they wouldn't have seen before. For example, that's picture there is Rothel Pillar. I think that's a picture from Game City up in Nottingham, where they were demoing it. That's a game where two players control caterpillars by wiggling their hips, and they have their heads inside a gingerbread house. Games as installations. I think there's a big opportunity for these kind of games as installations, but just not through the traditional marketplaces. We have to look beyond, should I make this game? Well, is there a shot run already set up for it? Is there hardware already set up for it? And start thinking, no, this would be a brilliant game. Now I've got to find a way to get it to an audience who will engage with it. So, an example of a company that's really inspired me in this front is Wall 4, who did a game a few years ago called Renga. Now, Renga is a game which is played by 100 people with laser pens. And 100 people all collaborate to shine laser pens at the screen to control this game. And you build a spaceship, you take down an enemy spaceship, and it's weird. You collaborate together as this big hive mind. And what they did with it is they took this game to cinemas, and they took this game to South by Southwest, and they took this game to Indiecade. And between those two events, they took it to other film festivals and other music festivals, I think, as well, across the US and Canada. They're a British company. I think they used to be based in Derby. I don't know if they still are. But it's a great inspiration because it shows that there are other business models out there for innovative kinds of games. That you can have a great game which uses really obscure hardware and then run it as an installation and say, you can say to people, rather than everyone in the world can buy a copy of this game, say everyone, say cinemas, venues, art galleries, public spaces, town halls, could pay me to set up and run and operate this game as a unique experience for their audience, their public, their cinema goers, whatever. And that's something I'm going to be looking into once I've got Tap Happy Sabotage out into the marketplace, is seeing what would be involved in running this as a party event in nightclubs or at cultural festivals or things like that. It's early days, I don't know that much about it yet, but if people have advice or have done things like this before, I would love to pick their brains on it. So But the big conclusion, which is good because Brian just gave me a peace sign, which either means 2 minutes or just that I'm doing a really good job. Big touchscreens are coming and they are awesome. Well, this is a fantastic piece of technology. You can do these big social games, you can do these big physical games that wouldn't be possible before. It's like this kind of conceptual evolution of Tablet, which was already a really cool interface to begin with, and now it's just got bigger, and bigger is better. And that's really where it comes down to. I guess I've probably got 1 minute left for people to ask me questions, but yeah, please do pick my brains. I've got one up there.
Aren't you afraid that people start breaking LCDs, like your mother was almost falling on yours?
Well, in terms of falling on it, on the safety instructions that came with the device, it had 2 pictures. It had a picture of a device with a cup of coffee resting on it and a cross next to it, and a dumbbell on it with a cross next to it. So as long as my mum isn't a cup of coffee or a dumbbell, I think it's okay. Speaking realistically, my attitude has been thus far to say, players can decide for themselves what's too far and what's, I don't want to balk my game. I don't want to limit what I can do by saying, I'm scared people will break their own hardware. I think people just need to be responsible for their own kit. That said, I can appreciate how expensive it is, but I haven't got a clever solution to that. That said, there are things I do try, when I can, to make sure that people don't get hurt. People can get physical, but I don't want them to get hurt. And that was why I was so keen. I was talking earlier about the focal points. Is that I'd seen people sort of wrestling over this one point in the middle of the screen in Greedy Bankers and gone, someone could get hurt. So, if someone didn't know the limits of their strength, someone could get physically hurt. So it wasn't just about the game. There was an element of, when I came to Slamjet Stadium, I wanted to keep everything constantly moving around the screen. A, to make sure you didn't get a stalemate out of it, and B, because when you get a stalemate, that's when it can start to become a game of strength where the stronger person physically hurts the weaker person. That's something you don't want. But by and large, I tend to leave it up to the users to decide what's okay and what's not okay. It's part of the fun, really. But then, let them decide their own limits, and that gives it an extra kind of personal angle to the experience. It gives it a feel of, doing something you're not supposed to do, because you're not supposed to push and bend technology that kind of way, because you're meant to treat it safely and with respect. So it is actually part of the fun. I am going over the limit, aren't I? So, thanks very much.